Hey lovelies, I am so excited to share this masterclass with you on how I scaled my coaching business from 0 to 100K months, working 2 to 4 hours a day, and why the simpler path to scaling is what most coaches never find. As you hop on, say hello. Please let me know if you are new to my world or drop the word new. And if you've been following me for a little while, drop the word follower. I would love to see who is watching this masterclass and say thank you. And if you get to the end of this video and think this would help someone else that you know, it would mean the absolute world to me if you were to actually tag them. So if you're watching this and feeling like you should have figured out how to scale your business without working all the time by now, I want you to know you are exactly who I created this masterclass for. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because the way most of us were taught to build our business is designed to keep us working harder, right? We were taught by people who worked hard for their success, and there is nothing wrong with hard work. There have been times in my career when I have worked very hard too. And today I just want to share that there's another way, right? So let me start by asking you some questions. Let me know if this is you in the comments. You're making money, right? Maybe you're even making good money, right? But your income is costing you more of your time than you'd like. And especially in order for you to maintain it as well, right? Maybe you're undercharging for your work that genuinely changes people's lives. And somewhere inside of you, you know it, right? You know it. But every time you think about raising your prices, you fear no one will pay you more. And so nothing changes. You're also overgiving, right? You go above and beyond for every client because that's just who you innately are. And the clients paying the least seem to need and take the most from you. And every time you think about scaling, about growing your business into something that gives you real freedom, there's something that stops you because you know that more clients at your current prices means giving more of you, more time, more energy, more of everything you don't have enough of already, right? So you end up staying where you are, telling yourself, maybe things will be different soon, right? If that's you in any way, shape, or form, please stay with me until the end because what I'm going to share today is going to shift something for you. Now, for those of you who may be new to my world, my name is Anne Ryan. I'm a business mentor and a money mindset coach for coaches and consultants who are building towards multiple 6 and 7 figures. I spent 20 years in corporate strategy. Then my husband and I borrowed $300,000 against our home in 2008, right in the middle of a global financial crisis, and we built an offline business that has generated over $50 million in sales so far. When I started my online coaching business, I already had a full life, right? I had my offline business that I was very involved in. I had 2 teenage children, and I had aging parents who relied solely on me. I already had the kind of life that didn't have room for another 40-hour work week, right? So I had to figure out how to build something that worked around my reality. And what I discovered changed everything for me and then for my clients too. So I built my coaching business to 100K months working just 2 to 4 hours a day, right? And no, that did not happen overnight. That took me about 4 years. For the first year, I was stuck around that sort of 10K month mark. Then in the second year, I hit the occasional 20K month mark, right? In the third year, I did sort of 30K and then even 50K months. And right up to this point, I didn't have anyone, even not even a VA to support me. And it was only then that I hired a very, very part-time VA who helps me maybe an hour or two a day, right? So it was in my fourth year that I then hit 100K months, and that was followed by 100K week, right? So not because I found some magic strategy that nobody else knows, but because I just chose a simpler path. And that simpler path exists for you too, right? But here's the thing that you need to know before you listen to this whole masterclass. The simpler path isn't just about a different strategy. It requires becoming a different version of yourself first. And that's also what we're going to talk about today. Because building a simple business requires unlearning what most people think, right? So let me tell you what most people think is necessary to build a successful business. And I imagine you may think the same way, at least on some of the points. Let me know in the comments. So people think to scale your business, you need to be more visible. So you need to be on every platform. So when it comes to visibility, there is some truth in that, right? You can't be the best kept secret and make $100,000. But people also think you need to be on every platform. You need to post every day. You need to even post multiple times a day. You need to go live all the time. You need to send emails every day. You need to build a podcast, write a book, speak on stages, ideally go viral, right? You need more offers, a low ticket one, for the entry point, a mid ticket one, a program, a high ticket mastermind, a course, a membership, maybe group coaching, maybe a one-to-one option, maybe a fully customized, done for you solution for wherever your client is, right? And you need to serve everyone, cast a wide net, build a big audience. More followers means more clients, and more clients means more income. And if it's not working, you build better systems, you hire a bigger team, you build more funnels, you add ads, right? And do more and more and more of everything. Does any of that sound familiar? Is any of that what you think is necessary? Yeah. And here's the thing that no one kind of really talks about that model. It was never designed for freedom. I'm not saying none of that works. All of that works, in fact, but none of it was designed for freedom. It was designed for growth at any cost, right? And the cost is almost always, aside from financial cost and overheads of doing all those things, it's almost always the cost of your time and your freedom, right? And I see it constantly, right? Women who are genuinely brilliant at what they do, working themselves into the ground, adding more and more and more to their business and wondering why, they don't feel fulfilled or the income doesn't actually reflect all this effort that they're putting in. Because here's what I've learned, right? More is not the answer. For most of you, more is actually the problem, right? So let me share a little bit more about what I mean here. Now, most people think the solution is a bigger audience, right? I know the reality is you don't need a big audience when you're selling high ticket, right? You just need the right audience. 100 deeply aligned people who resonate with exactly what you do is worth more than 10,000 passive followers who never end up buying, right? Most people think the solution is to have multiple offers, like I shared before, at every price point, so you don't leave money on the table, right? And the reality is, when you try to serve everyone at every price point, your offer ends up speaking to no one with certainty. A premium client, the type of client who is willing to invest 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever the number is, and more, right? They see your offers and think, does she have a clear point of expertise? What is she actually an expert in, right? And they keep scrolling. Premium clients don't pay $20,000 or whatever the number is for everything, all the things. They pay $20,000 for a very specific outcome that they want, right? Now, another thing, most people think that the solution is to be everywhere and create constantly, because the algorithm favors this constant presence. And the reality is that content that tries to speak to everyone, right? And if you're constantly creating something, there is no potency in all of it. There just isn't. Your simplest, most direct, most specific content will always outperform your content that speaks to everyone, a broader audience. Yeah. Every single time. Because the people you want to work with aren't looking for a one size fits all kind of solution. Yeah. They're not looking for entertainment either. They're looking for someone who really understands their problem so clearly that it feels like you are in their head and reading their mind. Yeah. So for that to be possible, you have to get very specific. Another thing most people think is the solution to scaling is by adding more clients, right? More clients is the only way to make more income. And it's one way, for sure. But the reality is, if more income always requires more clients, you haven't built a scalable business. You've built yourself a job, right? And a job that grows just means more workload, heavier workload, not necessarily more freedom or a better life. Now, don't misunderstand me. Of course, a lot of these problems that I've mentioned, that I've highlighted, can be resolved. They can be resolved by throwing money at the problem, right? But, you can hire a team, you can run ads, all of those sorts of things. There are absolutely a solution for every single problem, but that's not what this masterclass is about, right? The simpler path that I've discovered, and I'm here to talk about, looks completely different, right? Fewer clients, deeper work, higher prices, specificity, one offer, right? A model that doesn't require more of you and your time every time you want to scale. Because if that was my business model, I would not have reached 100K months working 2 to 4 hours a day with a VA helping me for an hour, maximum 2 a day. Yeah. That's the reality. And that's what I built. And that's what I'm going to show you how to build too. But before we get into the strategy, I need to talk about something much more important, right? Because here's what I've learned after working for years with multiple clients who are often kind of stuck in that overgiving and under earning kind of identity. The strategy is only ever as powerful as the identity behind it. So I want to ask you something, and I really need you to sit with it honestly. When you imagine charging 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever the big number is, right, dollars for your offer, what comes up? Let me know in the comments. Like, if possible, pause now and write it and then continue to watch. What comes up when you imagine charging that kind of money? For most of the women I work with, the answer isn't, I'm not worth it, right? It's something much more specific than that, right? It's, if I charge more, I'll have to give even more. And that belief is currently what's running your entire business. So think about it. You overgive already, right? Because you're trying to justify the price you're already charging. You go above and beyond because somewhere inside of you, you feel like the value needs to be earned through your hard work, right? Old conditioning, old patterning, we won't go into all of that right now, you know, but through hours, through effort, through being available, being responsive in a way that no one could ever question your value, right? You measure your value by how much you give. And because of that belief, every time your price goes up in your mind, so does the picture of how much more you'll need to give, right? That kind of, you start imagining and picturing how, like, you're already overgiving. So, how much more do you have to give if you were to increase your pricing? So, you keep your prices low because low feels safer, it feels manageable, right? Low pricing feels like something you can actually deliver without like exhausting yourself over it. But here's what that belief is actually costing you. You attract clients who pay the least and expect the most. Why? Because your energy, the energy of someone who needs to over justify her value, is actually calling them in. You stay stuck at an income level that requires constant effort to maintain because the model is built on your output, not your actual value, right? And you resent it, not the clients or the work that you do, but that model and the version of yourself that you've been operating from, right? And here's the thing, you are not a bad person for giving too much. You are not bad for caring too much, right? You're not too invested in your clients' results. They are all great strengths to have. The problem isn't who you are. The problem is that you've built a business model, right, around an identity that says your worth is in the output, right? And that identity is exactly what built the model you are stuck in. So here's what changes when you shift that identity. When you truly believe that your value is in your expertise, right? In the skills that you have to share, in how clearly you can see what your clients can't see for themselves, how specifically you can solve the problem that they're stuck in, and how powerfully you can actually lead them to the result that they desperately want. The price becomes a reflection of that. Not a debt you have to repay in hours, right? So when you work with fewer clients more deeply, you can actually give more, right? More of the genius that makes you extraordinary at what it is that you do. But you give it to the right people at the right price point and in a way that really expands you instead of sucking the life out of you. Yeah. Hope you're picking up what I'm putting down here. That's the identity shift that makes the simpler path possible. And here's what I want you to know. This shift doesn't happen by reading books, right? Or listening to a podcast. It happens from doing the deeper work with someone who's been there, right? Who can see the gap between where you are and who you need to become. Yeah. And who can hold you to that, hold you accountable to becoming that, right? And that's what I do with my clients. And it's why their results happen faster than even they expect. Yeah. So I'm not one to hold someone accountable to doing the work. My clients don't need that, right? But holding you accountable to the person that you are becoming, holding you to the standards, holding you to those boundaries, that's the kind of accountability that I love. Okay, so let's talk about what the simpler path actually looks like in practice. So when I decided to build my coaching business around my life, I couldn't really spare a lot of time, but I kind of said, okay, I've got to make this work between 2 to 4 hours a day, right? But quite honestly, I didn't really even have that time on most days. So I got very clear on what actually had to be done, right? And what was just busy work. And what I found was the coaches who create, like I was looking around and I could see the coaches who created most income with the least amount of effort all did the same things, right? They had one high ticket offer, right? That was packaged, positioned, messaged to be priceless for their dream client, right? They have messaging that attracted women or people who were absolutely ready to buy, right? They had a simple rinse and repeat system that brought in clients consistently. And they've done the money mindset and identity work to raise their pricing, without just, feeling the wobbles and all the things that come up when you increase your price. So let me walk you through each one, right? So one high ticket offer positioned with specificity. What does that look like? This is not an offer that could help anyone and everyone, but an offer that makes one very specific person feel like you are reading their mind. Yeah. And here's the difference, just as an example. A more generic sounding offer might sound like I help coaches and consultants grow their business, align their mindset, and create consistent income. Not bad. Yeah. More specific is I help female coaches whose business has plateaued around the six-figure mark to simplify their model, reposition their offer for premium clients, and create 50 to 100K months while working less, not more. Can you feel the difference? The second one makes a very specific woman, not everyone, right? Stop scrolling and think, she's talking to me. I want exactly what she's offering. That level of specificity comes from being willing to narrow down, to choose who you are for and be completely unapologetic about who you are not for. Yeah. And I know what comes up here for most people. If I narrow down, you know, won't I lose clients? Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's what I've seen over and over and over again in my business, in my clients' business too. When you narrow your offer, the right clients find you so much faster. They say yes so much more quickly, right? They get better results. And that has this flow on effect, and they refer others just like them. And you stop wasting energy on discovery calls with people who are never going to buy in the first place, right? You don't need a big audience when you have a very specific offer. You just need the right audience. And specificity is what creates it, right? So moving on, the second one, messaging that attracts your dream clients who have already decided they're in, right? There are two types of people in your audience right now, in all our audiences right now. There's the person who needs a lot of nurturing, lots of content, lots of free masterclasses, a discovery call, a payment plan, lots of questions and conversations. And there is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with that type of person who's in our audience. They just need more time. Yeah. And then there's the person who is already decided. They know they have a problem. They know they need help. They are actively looking for the right person. And the moment they find you, they move, right? Now, most people are creating content for everyone, the first person, right? When your messaging speaks to the second one, when it's so specific, so direct, and so clearly about their exact reality that they read it and think, this is exactly where I am right now, the sales process becomes almost effortless. They don't need convincing. They just need to know that you are the right person. And your content does exactly that, right? Not by being clever or having the perfect hook, although that helps, right? Good hooks stop the scrolling. But by being so clear about who you help and what you do that the right person can't scroll past it. So moving on, number 3, a simple rinse and repeat visibility and sales system, right? And let me be clear about what this looks like. I have never gone viral, right? Never. I don't have a podcast or a best-selling book. I don't run complicated funnels or do anything complicated for that matter. Yeah. What I have is a simple, consistent way of showing up that attracts the right women into my world and converts them into clients without needing to be everywhere, right? And it comes down to just 3 things. Content that speaks directly to my dream clients and positions me as the obvious choice for her. Genuine conversations with the right people, right? I'm not talking about scripting or automated sequences or anything else, just real connection. Yeah. And an offer so specifically positioned that when the right woman finds it, the decision is almost already made. That's the system, right? It's not complicated, but it does require showing up as the woman who has fully decided, which brings us back to identity, right? Which is the 4th thing. The identity work that makes all of it possible, right? Here's what I've never seen work. Yeah. A woman who hasn't done the identity work, implementing the right strategy and actually getting results she wants. Never seen it. And here's what I've seen work every single time. A woman who shifts her identity, who becomes the woman who prices from her value, who leads from her conviction, who shows up with certainty, without apology, and then implements the simple system, right? The results are almost always faster than she expects too, because when your identity and your strategy are aligned, your content stops being just content. It ends up becoming like a mirror, right? And the right clients see themselves in the content, in it. And that's what makes them say yes, right? So I want to share just a few of the women I've worked with because I think it's important that you hear this isn't just theory or just something that's worked for me, right? And I won't spend too much time here because I have many case studies and testimonials. They're on my website and various other places, but I just wanted to share a couple of examples. So one client came to me making consistent 6 figures, right? 6+ figures a year. And she was working during school hours, right? So she was already kind of limited to how many hours that she could work. She was also already fully booked and had hit an income ceiling, right? So she couldn't get past that without giving up more of her time. We stripped back her business completely, changed her niche, moved her from working one-to-one to a high-ticket group offer, and positioned her in a way that attracted exactly the right women she wanted to work with, right? That resulted in a $70,000 launch of her brand new offer within 60 days. And a couple of months later, she went on to have her first 100K month. Another client who had three very young kids at home, right? So they weren't even at school age, right? And had spent a year stuck at around that 5K, maybe the occasional 10K month. 2 months into working with me, she hit 30K months and then went on to hit 50K months without adding any extra stress or hustle or hours to what she was doing before. The last example I'll share was a busy single mum, right, who had sort of teenage kids at school, but she was already working a lot of hours because her kids were a little bit older, and she was making around, I think, about the 150K mark a year, right? But only about half of that was profit. Yeah. And we moved her to a really simple group model, which meant she ended up working less hours. She scaled to 50K months and made more than $300,000 in profit in her first year. And what every single one of these women has in common is they didn't get these results because they worked harder. They got them because they massively simplified. They got specific. They did the identity work and they stopped trying to build their business like everyone else. Yeah. None of them had a big audience. None of them went viral, not while working with me. None of them were doing all the things other mentors told them needed to be done, right? They just found the simpler path. And more importantly, they trusted it, right? They trusted it. And they very quickly discovered it was available to them the whole time. And the good news is that it's available to you too, if you desire simplicity, right? So everything I've shared with you today, the identity shift, the high ticket offer, the simple rinse and repeat system, the messaging that attracts women who are already decided, yeah, this is the core work I do with my clients. And I work with women in two ways, right? Simple. The first is my group mastermind, a 12-month experience for women who, are ready to go from six-figure years to six-figure months, right? We build your high ticket offer, your messaging, your simple rinse and repeat system, and we do the identity work that makes all of it sustainable, right? You get me, an intimate and powerful community of like-minded women playing at a similar level, and really personalized support for 12 months. The second is one-to-one coaching for the woman who wants to work with me directly, privately, and more deeply, right? And everything is built entirely around your business, your life, your specific goals. Yeah. So if you're wondering if I can help you get similar results to those I shared in today's masterclass, I honestly don't know yet, right? Because I don't know enough about you. And that's exactly why I don't work with every single woman who reaches out to me either. Yeah. That said, if you'd like to find out if we're a good fit, DM me the word simple and let's have a real conversation, right? I'm not going to try and sell to you or convince you. Yeah. We'll just have a genuine conversation to find out where you are, where you want to go, and whether working together actually makes sense. If it does, I'll tell you. If it doesn't, I'll tell you that too. Because the last thing I want is for you to invest in something that isn't the right fit. Yeah. What I can tell you is the simpler path exists. Yeah. I found it and I've shown hundreds of women how to find it too.